Canada, the second largest country in the world, is a breathtaking destination with landscapes, diverse cultures, and thriving cities. From the majestic Rocky Mountains in the west to the historic cobblestone streets of Quebec City in the east, Canada offers a diverse range of experiences for travelers to explore. Canada's rich history and Indigenous heritage are also key aspects of its identity. Canada is home to a diverse tapestry of Indigenous cultures, with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples contributing to the vibrant mosaic of the country's heritage. These communities have inhabited the lands now known as Canada for thousands of years, preserving their traditions, languages, and spiritual beliefs despite centuries of colonization and cultural assimilation. The nation is an economic heavyweight too, managing to build an economy worth $2.14 trillion. That is good enough for ninth on the world's top 10 economies. One of Canada's greatest strengths is its highly skilled workforce, which includes graduates from some of the best universities in the world. This human capital has been essential in driving innovation and growth in sectors such as healthcare, technology, and finance, all of which have continued to thrive despite disruptions from the pandemic. Canada's diverse industries, including manufacturing, agriculture, and natural resources, also contribute to the country's economic stability. In addition to its skilled workforce and diverse industries, Canada benefits from an abundance of natural resources, including crude oil, natural gas, minerals, and timber. These resources are critical to the country's economy. Over 40% of the country's GDP comes from resource extraction. This makes it one of the most resource-dependent nations on Earth, just behind places like Russia, Brunei and Australia, and below others like India. Also, Canadians face some of the world's highest housing prices, with Vancouver as the second most expensive place in the world, and Toronto as the 11th. Due to historical patterns, Montreal has managed to avoid this fate. Canadians also face one of the world's highest household debt burdens. So what caused all this? Well, first is Canada's geography. A large and cold landmass, Canada's 40 million people live in clusters along the southern border with the United States, but from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean. Instead of one continuous country's Canada's geography and historical circumstance means the country is actually 6 separate groups. British Columbia, which includes Vancouver, Whistler and other southern Pacific towns. The prairies include much of the Rockies, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba and much of rural Ontario. Then there's Eastern Ontario, which includes the nation's capital Ottawa, and the largest city, Toronto. The Maritimes, which include Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick and Newfoundland are another group on the Atlantic coast. The other two groups, the Quebecois and Indigenous groups, are special. Not only are they scattered across Canada, less so in the Quebecois case. Each group enjoys special tax, legislative and cultural rights. To keep these groups together, Canada's political system is a weird democracy. It's actually a confederacy with strong administrative powers. A confederacy refers to a political union, or alliance of sovereign states or entities, that come together for a common purpose or interest. It can also refer to a group of people working together, sometimes unlawfully, for a specific goal or conspiracy. In the context of history, the term confederacy is often associated with the Confederate States of America, which was formed in 1861 by Southern states that seceded from the United States. The Confederacy was dissolved after the Civil War, but in Canada, the looser union is matched with a strong federal leadership. As a parliamentary system, specifically a Westminster-style parliamentary democracy, this system gives significant power to the federal government, which includes the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, and the governing party inside the House of Commons. Some argue that Canada remains a liberal democracy with strong democratic traditions. They highlight Canada's parliamentary democracy, the federal system, and commitment to principles such as peace, order, and good government. They emphasize that Canada is described as a full democracy, with a tradition of liberalism and moderate political ideology. Furthermore, they also point out that extremism has not been prominent in Canadian politics, and that social justice is an important element of Canada's political culture. However, Canada's strong federal political system and concentrated economic system have turned the nation into a conciliatory oligopoly. A conciliatory oligopoly refers to a market structure in which a small number of firms dominate the market and engage in cooperative behavior rather than fierce competition. While oligopolies typically involve firms competing with each other, a conciliatory oligopoly is characterized by firms working together to increase their mutual profits instead of engaging in cutthroat competition. In a conciliatory oligopoly, The firms within the industry may collaborate and coordinate their actions to maintain stability and maximize their profits. This cooperation can take various forms, such as price-fixing agreements, market sharing, or joint ventures. By avoiding aggressive competition, these firms can effectively keep out new entrants and maintain their market dominance. Working with the political system, Canadian politicians manage to increase house prices to increase their net worth, at the harm of Canadians who cannot afford a home. House prices and net worth of Canada's political and economic class have gone up in almost lockstep. Not only that, but the allocation of financial resources in the housing market can impact productivity. Canadians currently spend a significant amount on renovations and home ownership transfer costs, which may divert funds for more productive investments. This raises questions about the allocation of capital and the potential impact on productive sectors. This makes sense when we consider the housing market contributed more than 20% to Canada's GDP, according to a report from Statistics Canada. So that is 40% on natural resources and 20% on housing. What is left for other industries? Over the near term, the nation will need to adjust itself to provide for the many Canadians who need income and housing, but also the many more the nation will need as it deals with a fertility crisis similar to Europe. Compared to places like Germany, Italy, and even France, Canada has the land, social stability to weather the larger economic forces, especially as its northern territories become more viable due to climate change. But living standards in the country will drop as middle-class jobs, white-collar jobs in law, accounting, research and blue-collar manufacturing move to Mexico, the US, and places like India. This will mean the country will have a harder time providing for its generous welfare state. Without social welfare, Canadians will not keep up their historically high human development indicators in health and education with a rather low GDP per capita compared to the US and others. So what needs to happen? Canadian politicians need to incentivize private investment from housing to other industries that can support jobs for the middle class. Due to government, historical and economic factors, the private sector will never be able to build cheap housing on scale. Non-market actors like COOPS, the Canadian Mortgages and Housing Corporation, and other groups will need to replicate post-World War II housing booms. Canada also needs to leverage its international standing to bring new foreign direct investment and market competition in places like groceries, mining, and tech. This would be helped by massive government investment in costly and massive national transportation to connect provincial economies and open land for housing. As unpopular as these decisions will be with citizens, politicians, and whoever else, this is what Canada needs to do to succeed by 2050.